Hey everyone, we're sitting down here with Tukan, who was the CEO of LeadSift, and today we're going to learn about how to achieve product market fit without breaking the bank. So we'll start off, Tukan. Would love to have an introduction from yourself, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Yeah, very excited to be here. My name is Tukan. I was the CEO and co-founder of LeadSift. We were an intent data product. I ran it for 8.5 years until 2 years back. We sold to Foundry and IDG company. My background is in computer science, specifically natural language processing. That's where I did my master's on. And then when I started the company as a CEO, I did everything but natural language processing. Over the period of time, I've worked a lot on really go-to-market outside of fundraising and those setting the strategy. It was really mostly go-to-market, product marketing, doing a lot of sales early on. So that's my background, and happy to be here.
Wore a lot of hats. Started in engineering, went to go to market. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
you know how it is.
You know how it is. So I'd love to always hear about how founders started their companies. What was the inception of LeadSift? How did it come about?
Yeah, interestingly, so the way Lead Sift started was basically not your classic, founder finds a problem, pain point in their life and decides to solve it or anything like that. And the way it started was around 2010, 2011. A lot of these social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, I think Blogger was still there. They were opening up their API for access. And me and my other co-founders, we were all background in data mining, in data science and those kind of things. So we got super excited. We're like, damn, there's a lot of data. So we started accessing the API and just to play around with it and see what can we extract. We were fascinated with extracting insights from unstructured data. That was something that we were super passionate about.
Yeah.
And when you say insights is super broad. What kind of insights? We didn't really have an idea. We were like, okay, maybe weather news, maybe stock market, like all the classic things that you can think of. But then we quickly realized one of the things was there was a lot of buying behavior, buying intent that was expressed that we could automatically identify by semantically analyzing that text. That's it. And that's where we got excited. That's where we got together and we decided to build the company. Our first foray into this was building a platform to help big consumer-facing brands. Think of the Fords, the LGs, the MasterCards, the GEs, helping them identify who were in market for their product and give them high-level insights around that so that they can run ad targeting on paid social. So that's how it started. The way it ended was not like that. Thankfully, it was in the similar vein, but it was not for that market. And therein lies all the learnings and all the scar tissues that we have.
Maybe we could start with, how did you decide on the market to begin with? And then how did that evolve over time? Because I realized that a lot of it is figure out the market, then figure out the solution, then figure out how you're going to scale it. So I'd love to learn more about the market.
I mean, think of all the classic mistakes that the startup founders do when they're starting a company. We did that. So when we started, when we realized that, okay, this is what we're going to do, we're going to help other companies identify their prospective customers in market for their product and help them better engage them, target them better or engage with them better. That was the thesis. That was a core company vision. And the first iteration was, well, let's go after the big sexy brands, meaning the shiny ones. So as I said, LGs and the big ones. And you know why? I don't know. I actually don't know why we didn't do real proper customer discovery when we started. We raised money, we didn't. One thing that, now that I think about it, could have influenced us, even before we raised funding and went full time, we got a partnership with Salesforce very early on. So Salesforce had Salesforce Marketing Cloud, which was their social media. I think they rebranded it to Social Studio. They bought a company out of the Atlantic Canadian region called Radian 6. And we got a partnership with them where they basically said, build an API for us where we would pass you a bunch of text, blogs, tweets,
Mhm.
Facebook posts, whatever. You would analyze this text and tell us, give us a score of what the likelihood of that sentence is, that post is around buying a car or a new insurance product or something like that. That happened very early on, within the first, as I said, even before we formally went full time. And back then, this is 2012, social listening was a big deal, and social listening was only used by big companies. So I think that definitely played a role. And
Mhm.
all of Salesforce's customers were big companies, the
Mhm.
Mazdas, the LGs, the GEs, the big banks.
I see.
Um, and so we are like, okay, obviously, if they are buying these tools to do social listening, but social listening is super broad, we'll focus on helping a narrow version of social listening, which is really identifying who's in market for
Mhm.
that. Not just brand awareness or sentiment, but really, hey, I'm going to tell you these guys, whether they care for, whether they like the new iPhone or not is interesting, but it'll be super interesting if you tell them, hey, these are the people that are actually thinking of buying an iPhone and comparing with the Samsung. Um, so I think that's how we got pulled towards this
Yeah.
big brands, and yeah, that's how we went there. Probably not. Probably, I know that was not a good way to do it, but that's how we did it.
I'd love to hear more about that because I know a lot of founders, including ourselves, we sometimes fall victim to the big shiny object. And those are the big brands. They pull you in, big promises. Look at all the market. Look at how big the ocean is on the other side of it. And so you said it may not have been the right way to do it, or there could have been a better way. Would love to hear more about your reflection there.
Oh man, I we can speak for a day about this. This is, and I now that I advise a lot of startups, I advise them against this big time.
Mhm.
So one of the big challenges with this thing is we are all excited about the big shiny object, like love to work with the big brands. Um, the the problem is, and I think I realized it much later. Early on, when we started, we were trying to sell to these big companies, and we got some initial success. I met with a local founder, and he was building a startup in the reinsurance space. And he told me, he's like, hey, no disrespect, but you have no idea about what the brand manager of MasterCard cares about. You don't know what the VP of marketing at GE really needs. And I thought it was a rude comment. Um, and he's like, no disrespect, but you don't belong to this world. You don't understand what a Fortune 500 CMO needs or stuff
Yeah.
like that. You're building what they are telling you through the agency. I took it a little bit personally, but um, that was the core of the problem. We were building a solution
Mhm.
because it was shiny, and we were dangled the carrot by these big brands and agencies saying, hey, if you do this, we'll pay you this. And we hearing all the stories, we got swayed around that. And what happened was we did this thing for 3.5 years. We did some small iterations. We got success. We had revenue. We had close to $500,000 of revenue.
Mhm.
But but the real light bulb moment that happened for us was um, in a board meeting in 2016. I remember I presented to our board. We had closed two big deals. Each one was 60,000, the other was $75,000. I was super happy.
Mhm.
And then right at the deck end of it, I asked a question to the board saying, my team, my engineering, how do I motivate my engineering team? I thought that was a pretty simple question. I was looking for feedback. And that's when the dam broke. That's when my chairman goes, well, it's obvious because you are building a custom development shop. You are going ahead building one-off solution for these big brands for what they're asking you to do. And you are getting them to do work when it's not meaningful work because the same work is not being used by two customers. You're always building custom work. So you're building an agency.
Mhm.
Um, that was a big blow. That's when we realized what we were building was not, certainly not product market fit. That revenue didn't mean product market fit. A lot of that was non-recurring,
Mhm.
um, because when you talk to big brands and agencies, they would use the data for, first of all, a lot of the times the brands would punt you over to the agencies. They all have agencies of record. They all do. And it would the agencies who would decide what tools to buy. And what agencies would do is, for example, Jaguar was a customer of ours, and we worked with their agency for a Super Bowl campaign when they launched I believe the XF, Jaguar XF, and Tom Hiddleston was the ambassador and all that. So the agency came to us and says, hey, we are launching this. We need data around what does the Jaguar audience look like, who are looking to buy a new car, what other cars are they comparing, what the demographic, psychographic mix looks like. And we gave them a ton of data, and they're like, this is great. We're going to use this for the campaign. And then our question was, well, what about the next month? They're like, no. We'll come back again 8 months later when we have another campaign to run. So again, think of from an engineering perspective, they would build all of this stuff for this, and then there is no revenue, there is no repeatable work, their product was not being used. So that was sort of really the inflection point for us when we like, well, and we had 1 year of runway left. Yeah, 2016, we had January 2016, we had a year worth of runway left. And we basically were at this crossroad. There were 3 options. We could shut down the business. We'd give some money back to the investors. They'd get pennies, whatever there was on the dollar. There were 2 acqui-hire offers that would be all stock options, one from Toronto, one from a US company. And the third option was, with whatever runway, go really lean and figure out what to build anything. That's when we really did the proper startup customer discovery, finding the ideal customer. And there was a whole bunch of things we did right. And yeah, so that was sort of the inflection point for us.
It feels like every startup has to go through this pain to learn the right process. They have the opportunity to do it. So this would be a good time to talk about this framework, actually.
Yeah. So the way we did was, the first thing we said is, because we were all the founders were heavy technical founders. And when you have all technical founders, the first thing is we build cool shit. That's the whole thing. Of course, if you build cool stuff with AI and all that stuff, other people will come. That's never the case. So one of the things we said is we are not going to write a single line of code until we have real validation that a customer will pay. That was the first thing we said. Then we said we are going to go truly data driven. I joke around. I read somewhere this quote that says, "In God we trust. Everyone else bring data." So we really internalized that. Then what we did was we said, okay, we'll have no preconceived notions. There'll be no confirmation bias. We're just going to go talk to people about what their pain points are. Hopefully around the problem we were solving, we were open to anything else. So we start talking to marketers. We went back to the Samsungs, the LGs, the MasterCards and they were giving us some ideas, and then we would build a PDF and go back to them, proper lean startup methodology. And we realized it was all a nice to have. They're like, yeah, this is good. And it was not like a hell yeah, I'm going to pay for it. It was not a hair on fire problem, because we were still stuck on that big brand marketing space. What happened was we had an SDR. We had only one SDR who was getting data from a tool called Redbooks or something like that, and then going on LinkedIn and doing cold prospecting via email. Outreach.io was just coming up. So we were using Outreach, started to use Outreach to do prospecting. And the SDR came up to us. His name was Corey. And he goes, can we use our tool to help me identify which companies I should be going after from a B2B software perspective? And our first initial reaction was, that's preposterous. Why would you do that? We only work with B2B2C. We would build tools for consumer-facing brands. But, when we realized that, I'm like, okay, this is a problem that we face. We understand this is something we deeply feel. And we're like, okay, let's do customer discovery around that. So no more talking to the Samsungs, the LGs, the MasterCard. Let's talk to other companies like us. So companies between 10 to 50 employees. And we started doing customer discovery. And I sent out a cold email to a list of 1,700 people we had. Some of them were in the B2B space. And the response was very, very strong. We had not written a single line of code where they're like, yeah, we're gonna do this. So what we said was, the framework we used was, there was a learning phase, and then there were a commitment phase, and then there was a payment phase. So 3 phases. In the learning phase, what we decided was we're going to talk to at least 50 or 100 people.
Mhm.
I think we did 50. That was a minimum. We talked to 50 people that fit that ICP, which is B2B software companies that have a product that sells for more than $10,000 a month, that does some form of outbound prospecting or have an SDR or BDR function in their role. It was not that popular in 2016, that title. Those are the people we talk to. And in this learning phase, we're going to really understand if what we are solving for is if they got a daily stream of contacts, warm contact, we call them leads, that they can go reach out to, they would pay for it, or this would be a pain point. And what we said was, in true, data-driven method, we said, of the people that we talked to, 80% of that core people in that learning phase, the phase one, if you think of a funnel, have to say, yes, this is a hair on fire problem. This is a pain point for them, 80%. So then what we said was, okay, if we talk to 50 people, 40 of them would say, yes, this is a hair on fire problem. I want to solve for this. Great. Then what we did was we said, okay, so now of the people that said, yes, this is a pain point, we're going to go back to them and walk them through a mock-up story. Even I don't think in the second phase, we didn't even do a mock-up. We just told them, hey, this is how we are thinking of solving it. And you said that this is a big pain point for you, lead generation and identifying prospects. And this is how we are thinking of delivering and all that. If we build this, would you try it out? And this is the commitment phase. So that was the commitment, these people. And we said 75% of the people in the commitment phase have to say, yes, we will use it. So we talked to first 50 people, 80% said yes. So that's 40 people that would have said, yes, it's a problem. We went to those 40 and we said 75% of them has to say that this is a pain point. This is something that they won't want to solve for. So that's about 75%. So that's about 30 people, right? So 30 people said, yes, if you build this solution, we would try it out. Then we went to the payment phase. Then what we said is, of the people in the commitment phase that said yes, they would try it out based on the way we were going to solve, another 75% or 50% of that would say that they would pay for this solution, a nominal fee. So we went back to them and said, hey, remember the solution that we told you that we were building? We actually have a prototype and it's ready to go. And we said it's $99 a month. And we tried a few different things. We said, $99 a month, no risk. We'll pay you. We'll return the money if you are not satisfied and all those stuff. But what we said was 50% of those people that said, yes, I'm going to test it out, would agree to pay. And that's the formula that you used. Learning phase, 80% would say, yes, this is a problem, pain point for me. From that second cohort, 75% would say, I would try it out. And then the final cohort, 50% would say, yes, I'm going to pay a nominal amount. Once we got that, we very quickly got 10 to 12 paying customers on monthly contracts. And I drafted up in Word doc. We called it the early adopter program. They'll pay, it's a 30-day contract, no commitment. They'll pay $99. In return, every single day, they'll get a list of contacts that they can go prospect with their contact details. We did this whole thing lasted 6 to 8 weeks. And once we had that core set of customers, we had 6 people at that time, all our engineers. We had PhDs, 1 PhD researchers, everyone. We were basically manually scouring Quora, Reddit, Twitter, LinkedIn, anything we could, and manually come up with 8 to 10 leads and send them via email from our email. And but that was great, because what we then did was we didn't have to write a single line of code. So we didn't throw out anything. So without single line of code, we had actual customers giving us revenue. So that was the process we followed.
Wow, very expensive SDRs that you have on the bench.
Very right, exactly.
So looking back on that, and that was great, by the way. I think everyone should definitely follow that framework. Don't write any line of code. Sell first, get commitment, then get payment, and then start maybe even thinking about building it after you've delivered the service repeatedly.
Exactly.
So looking back now, given all the tools that we have and how the market and dynamic has changed, would you change anything about the process if someone had to start a company today?
I think the fundamentals are still the same, Alan. I still think you need to figure out your customer base. You need to understand what their pain points are, do validation, do delivery. I would not I would not hire until the first phase, first initial one, until you have the first 10 customers. I would not go ahead and hire new AEs or buy new softwares to do any of this. You do it all in-house, founder-led, founding team-led. Once you have the first set of things, first group of 10 customers that are happy, they're finding value, they're giving you feedback, they're giving you a nominal amount, that's when you start building out your go-to-market motion. First go-to-market motion. And the way we did it was, we basically set up a landing page. I think we used I forget what it's called. We used a simple landing page, and we did a lot of outbound. So the funny thing for us was, we were dog fooding our own system.
Nice.
So from day one, we had to use our own tool. In fact, for the first 2 years of the business, 80% of all revenue was sourced by LeadSift leads. So
Wow.
so we had to. But not everyone's business is in the same case. In your case, warmly, it's interesting because you guys can dog food your own system, which you probably are doing, right? So anyways, so then after the first initial set of traction, that's when you build your go-to-market motion. My advice would be, so this is when you know it's working, there's some initial traction. Without spending a lot of money, how can you scale that up from 10 to 100 customers? First thing that I would do is, I would hire. That's when you start thinking of hiring an AE. And when we say AE, this ideal first AE should be not your typical AE, not your typical closer or prospector. They should be half product marketer, half account executive, who understands the product, who can talk the value of the product, give the feedback, do customer discovery and all that, while having the closer mentality. I think that should be your first hire, first sales hire. And the beauty of this is, when you get that hire, you have already sold the first 10 deals. So you or your sales team already knows what are the typical objections, what they like, what they dislike. You can train them on this. And then with this new person with a product marketing AE mentality, they don't need to have experience, but just the mindset of a product marketer and AE. They can then go take this and then start doing outbound. Outbounding is a great way of doing demand generation early on. And your outbound in the first phase from 10 to 100 would be a combination of your network and your extended network. Literally, you found these 10 customers, maybe look at their competitors, right? Look at, build a hyper-defined list of companies. One thing that we didn't use back then, I don't know if there were tools like that. We had the landing page, remember, where we did some Facebook ads. We didn't do Google. And we were getting some kind of traffic through that, but mostly it was outbound emailing. Now it's very different. I don't think outbound emailing would be that successful. But if you have these kind of first party de-anonymization tools, you can then find the group of companies, identify the decision makers within them, because you have a very clear definition of ICP. You reach out to them. Again, your half AE, half PM would do that, right? So that would be one way of you scaling the business after you've closed the first 10 deals. And then the other thing that we hired our first sales guy after, so I said, I'll close the first 50 deals myself, just to really understand the sales process. We hired, I think the first I think 8 months after we started this process. And when he joined, he had that mentality. He was a BDR before, but he had the AE product marketer mentality, and he absolutely killed it. He was closing way more deals than I was. And we did a lot of outbound, but not super sophisticated. It was a very bare bone tool. We used our tool. We used LinkedIn not Sales Navigator. We used LinkedIn, Phantom Buster. We used Outreach.io. And that's how we scaled it from there.
That's amazing. Coming back to product market fit, how did you know you had it? Because getting 10 customers is definitely a crowning achievement. And then does that pave the way for the next 100,000, 10,000? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Great question. I don't know if there is a silver bullet to know when you have reached product market fit. That's my take. But when I think there's few things that can give you indication about product market fit. One, really retention is the metric for
Mm-hmm.
product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
You can bring in a shit ton of customers, but if they're not happy, if they're churning out after the first month or they're not happy with it, I don't think you have product market fit. Just customer acquisition doesn't indicate product market fit.
Right.
It's some kind of retention, and retention would be directly correlated to usage. Whatever the usage metric that you have, that you set, I think that's how you'll know. For us, what we figured out was, because we were doing daily delivery of leads to this group of customers, and that's what we kept doing till
Mm-hmm.
we got acquired. One of the things we early on realized was, as we were onboarding new customers, let's say one day the delivery system didn't fire, it didn't send that email out. We would get a ton of emails from them saying, hey, what happened to my leads?
That's great.
That was a clear indication for us, saying it was stressful, but it's a clear indication that whatever we were doing was not a nice to have, it's a must have. Their sales team was depending on it, right? I think that would be one metric, one method of figuring out if you have product market fit. I have heard some people do that on purpose. It's like,
That's funny.
make a part of your system, it might be a bit draconian, make a part of your system unusable and see how many people complain. If they're complaining, that's a good thing. That means they use it. If they're not, they don't really care. So that's, you shouldn't do it for your whole product, maybe a feature.
Yeah.
So,
No, trust me, our product is constantly breaking all the time. So
right.
it does it on its own.
And right. So it's an intelligent system that is doing this A/B testing for you.
Yeah, totally preempted. No, not an accident at all.
Right.
So now that we've found product market fit, we're able to scale it. Do you think this is a repeatable process that any founder can basically pick up and learn? Or is there still an element of skill involved, or is there some other X factor? Do you think you can repeatedly find product market fit again?
Yeah.
Start another company?
If you have, I think, I mean, it probably wouldn't be the exact same metrics, but the bare bones of it would apply. You have that learning phase. You have a hypothesis where you basically say, hey, this is the pain point I'm solving for this group of customers, and then go obsessively reach out to that group of customers, at least 50 of them, and really understand if that is the pain point that they have, if it's true. If it's not, if a meaningful number of people are saying no, it's not their number one pain point, then it's not. It's time to iterate. But if they say yes, then you go, okay, this is their biggest pain point. Let me go to the next step, the commitment phase, saying, hey, this is how we are thinking of conceptually building it for you. This is the UI. This is how the UX would work. This is not the UI. This is the user experience you'll get. This is the value you're going to get. And then say, is this solving this pain point? Because you did tell me in the last step, in 2 weeks back, that this was a hair on fire problem. We're thinking of solving it for this way. And if they go yes, then you go and build a very basic product MVP, albeit it'll be buggy, and you go to them and say, hey, we built it. This costs $100. We're going to give it to you for $10 a month. Never. That's the other thing we learned. Never ever give free trial. Never. You never get any meaningful feedback. Never. It does not work. It does not work. So I think yes, it is repeatable. I think it is repeatable. There's definitely some factor of luck that needs to happen. There's definitely not some factor of deep knowledge and conviction that the founder needs to have for it to work. So in the first iteration, when we are going and talking to the we never talked to the demand gen marketers. We were speaking to head of paid media, social media manager, VP of social, and all that. We really didn't have that conviction or knowledge of their pain point. I actually don't know what the VP of marketing of Pepsi or MasterCard, what their KPIs are. I had conviction in what I was building, but I didn't really understand. But I think for this process to work, you really need to understand. You need to really face the pain. You need to be an expert in the saying, no, I know these are the metrics that works, right? I think that would be helpful. If it's not always the case, but if you have faced this problem, you don't have to build it because you have faced this problem. But if you're actively, constantly using it, and it works because you are using it, you're customer number 1, in fact, customer number 0, then you have that conviction and this process would work. Yeah, I think so.
Perfect. Tukan, thank you so much for your time. This was really
Problem.
informative. Can you let our viewers
Awesome.
know where to find you if they want to learn more about you or get in touch?
Sure. I'm super active on LinkedIn. Just search Tukan Das. Um, that's where I'm most active, and or you can reach out to me on email. It's tukan.das@foundryco.com. Happy to help. This was great. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Tukan. Appreciate
No
it.
worries.
All right.
Cool.